This video comes from my Archaeology Corroborates the Bible series. Entries in this series are based on the book Unearthing the Bible, written by Titus Kennedy. Kennedy looks at 101 archaeological discoveries that bring the Bible to life. Dr. Titus Kennedy is a professional field archaeologist, an adjunct professor at Biola University, a research fellow at Discovery Institute, and has been a consultant, writer, and guide for history and archaeology documentaries and curricula. Kennedy currently directs archaeological projects in Bible lands, and he has researched and photographed artifacts from around the world. Artifacts left behind from the vanished ancient world of the Bible have been found and recovered through archaeology. What is an artifact? In simple terms, an artifact is an ancient object made or modified by humans, and many have been found, especially in recent years, at archaeological sites around the world. Artifacts include statues, altars, jewelry, weapons, tools, inscriptions, paintings, coins, scarabs, tablets, papyri, stelae, reliefs, and pottery, showcasing the artistic and technological prowess of the ancients. But more importantly, artifacts tell stories of the past. They serve as both visual and informational aids that provide insight into that ancient context and toward an accurate understanding and interpretation. The Bible is a collection of books written millennia ago in places and cultures far removed from modern readers, but artifacts can give us essential knowledge of the ancient world and help us avoid the problem of unconsciously or inadvertently viewing a passage or book in the context of a modern society and time. Because the Bible contains stories from the ancient world, written in a style different than the method of modern historians and paired with theology, many have assumed that the narratives in the Bible are myth, legend, and propaganda instead of accurate history. In fact, the majority of scholars, most media and educational sources, and many in the general public regard the Bible as a fairy tale and frequently portray it as unimportant or irrelevant beyond literary and religious studies. For years, the Bible has been routinely attacked and disregarded on the basis of history or archaeology. And yet, when people look into what archaeologists have unearthed, a different story comes to light, showing that instead of fiction and fairy tales, archaeology indicates that the Bible preserves an accurate recounting of the history addressed in its pages. Specifically, hundreds of artifacts from the distant past have demonstrated the events, people, and places in the Bible to be historical. The Lament for the Destruction of Ur is a Mesopotamian poem consisting of 438 lines divided into 11 sections, and is known from several tablets discovered at Nippur, Ur, and other ancient cities of Mesopotamia. The most exceptional of these tablets measures 24.5 centimeters by about 13.5 centimeters and has been preserved nearly intact over the millennia. Composed by an unknown author, the document recorded and lamented the destruction of Ur by the Elamites and their allies during the final year of King Ibbi-Sin of the third dynasty of Ur around 1950 BC. Written from a Sumerian perspective, the text, the Lament for Ur, mentions several deities discussed by the end of Ur III, with Ningal pleading ineffectively before a divine council to spare Ur. Fortifications had been built around the city, but the defenses did not prevent the onslaught of the Elamites. In graphic, poetic language, verses describe how the city was reduced to ruin. Temples were destroyed, corpses were piled at the gates, severed heads were scattered on the streets, bodies decomposed in the sun, families were burned in their houses, people died of hunger, treasures were defiled and stolen, and those who survived groaned in lamentation. Since Ur was probably the largest city in the world at the time, with a population of at least 65,000, the event significantly changed the history and demography of the region. Following the destruction of Ur, the city eventually came under the control of a dynasty based in Larsa. Although a violent military siege ended in Ur, The decline of the empire had begun earlier due to economic and political factors. Leading up to these events in the Genesis account, Abram was probably living in the city, and the departure of the family of Terah, including Abram and Sarai, may have coincided with the campaign of the Elamites around 1950 BC. Prior to the siege of the city, when the empire was already floundering, Terah may have thought it inadvisable to leave. If the disintegrating political and economic situation did not convince them to leave, surely the impending attack upon the city would have. Whatever prompted his decision, Terah moved his family north from Ur to Haran, where Abram lived for about 50 years, before migrating to Canaan. Genesis chapter 11, verse 31 states, quote, "And Terah took his son Abram, and his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarah, his son Abram's wife, and they went out with them from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. And they came to Haran and dwelt there." So here's a tablet corroborating that part of the biblical narrative. I see the